Hey, it's Jen Hart with Jen Hart Be Awesome. And today is day 18 of my 15-minute method to change your life. All the youngins will be upset because I don't have a middle part and I'm side parting. You can all go, you know what. No, I know it's a joke. It doesn't matter. Just be yourself. That's the point. Don't let the youngins tell you that you should have this or that. And the youngins don't let the old people tell you what to do either. Follow your heart. Okay. Sorry. Just got distracted. Day 18. So day 18 is about what I like to call, well, it's two-step. It's similar, I don't know. A lot of the days run into each other in part because we're stacking skills, okay? We're stacking different skill sets and we're practicing in 15-minute segments to improve and focus on ourselves and get right with ourselves so we can create the life we want, so we can be ourselves and not have worry. And I mean, you might have a little worry, but you're going to reduce the worry the more you do skills, so that's that. Okay, so today is day 18 and we're talking about twofold. I have this thing that I like to call a burn book. I think I'm going to create one to sell, but at the beginning stages of anything, here's what you would do as a burn book. So I'm going to try to see if I can do this. And hopefully it won't fall down. It may fall down. Anyway, I should not care about the lighting. I should just do this and let's get on with it. So the burn book is basically any piece of paper or journal. I prefer like a notebook, like a spiral notebook, like this one. This one's a little weird size, but it doesn't really matter. The size is about whether or not you get stuff on the paper. And it's illegible, partially because it's been many moons since I wrote, and all it really is for you to get out all of your... Clearly I'm having issues. Okay. I don't know if that'll help. We're going to try. All right. Can you see me? Can you hear me? This is not working. I didn't put it on my stand. So I'm just going to look at the whole. Yes. Anyway. So basically a burn book. It's basically any notebook. If you want to be a fancy notebook, you can. I like to use just spiral bound you can get for during the school year. They're 25 cents, or you could pay $7. It doesn't really matter what you use. I mean, you could even use a yellow notepad. It doesn't really matter, although this little, if you have a lot to process. So the burn book is basically using all of your, you're kind of getting all of your feelings out. So in the beginning of when I'm working with a client, we usually go do brain dumping. So this is another form of brain dumping. It's like my take on Julie Cameron's The Artist Way. And what Julie Cameron says is, in the morning, you would write 3 pages. So it's basically a stream of consciousness of, this is Julie Cameron's, by the way, in the book is amazing. And it doesn't, not just for artists, it's just for anything cathartic and creative. But you would take those 3 pages and just kind of stream of consciousness anything that's coming out of you. So with my take is that you have a purpose for this burn book, this book. It's almost like a journal. If you want a lock and key, get one from childhood. I don't even know if they make them. I'm sure the internet has them, but it's a place where you can safely write down things. Now, as a spiritual kind of aspect of it is once you start writing things down, and this burn book is for the things that you want to process and let go of. So say you have some anger or frustration, or you're just kind of talking to yourself in journal form, where you're not trying to problem solve per se. You may, but the whole point of the burn book is basically to burn it away, to let go, to release. And sometimes you have to write on the same topic for a long time. Like when I was trying to do healing work around my mother, and at that time she had already passed on because she died in 2005, but I still had stuff to work out. It's just because somebody's passed on and they might say hello to you, and they're fine where they are, that doesn't mean we are fine on this side. Because of my own stuff that I was holding on to, resentment, anger, and I didn't forgive fully. Like, a good chunk of my resentment left when she left the planet. But I still had residual, and it was affecting my life. And I hate to say it, if you have unconscious things that are popping up in your life, and you don't know why things keep going the way they go, it's because you have unprocessed stuff, unforgiveness, unprocessed pain, anger, frustration, and it's not fun to look at, but it is necessary for your evolution. It's necessary for being happy. And it doesn't mean it has to take very long. That's why I love cutting off the time at 15 minutes. Like, I even did this last night because I've been resistant. If you've seen some of my reels, is that I'm pretty good at keeping, like, managing my emotions, but then sometimes I just don't want to deal. And I'm sure you do that too. I mean, 2020 was a whole freaking frick. But in terms of not wanting to deal. But I don't use food anymore. I don't use alcohol. I don't use other people. And so when it starts getting to me, and you shouldn't use those people anyway, shouldn't, the word, but sometimes we do. But once you get a hold of that and say, okay, well, I just have to process the things. And basically you're having a conversation with yourself in this burn book. But it's everything that you might not feel safe to say to a person, whether they're alive or dead. It's just for you. I wouldn't, unless you have a therapist or somebody you absolutely freaking trust with your life, it's not for anybody else. It's literally for you to process and move the energy that's inside of you that's been stuck, that's stale, and use 15 minutes. You set a timer and saying, I'm going to get 15 minutes. And if you need more than 15 minutes, you set another 15-minute timer. This is not to stop you from feeling. This is supposed to help you have a conversation with yourself. Be your own best friend. Be consciously aware and not abandoning yourself anymore. And anymore, I say, this is typically for people that have done that for their whole entire lives. And I'm not sure if I said this in another live, or another training, is that when I was a teenager, I was doing this unconsciously. And I would do it for hours because there was so much I was dealing with in my life. I was working full time. I was going to school full time. I lived with my mother, and that was a whole, just living with her was a wonderful, fun adventure that I can laugh at now and really be grateful for. But also there was stuff and anger and upsetness and just being a freaking teenager with boys and sexual harassment and you name it, like life in general. So journaling was my safety net. And there were times that I didn't feel safe to journal. Sometimes it was because of myself. I wasn't able to acknowledge myself or give myself the validation. So piggybacking from what we did the other day, if you're following, go on my Instagram TV to follow more, is that sometimes we just aren't consciously talking to ourselves for whatever reason. And maybe it's because we never learned, so you kind of have to learn that habit. And 15 minutes is really not that long of a time to kind of give yourself, but it's also not too much time. Where there are reasons why we might avoid these feelings is because we don't want to get stuck in them. We don't want to, like, cry for days or be angry for hours and days, and we're afraid to open Pandora's box, but the box needs to be open. It's absolutely fucking necessary. In order to have a relationship with other people, you have to have a relationship with yourself, and this is the perfect way to have a burn book. And I say a burn book because, I mean, I used to keep notebooks like nobody's business, and now I don't, because they're really just old stories that need to get out, and they may or may not be true. That's where the great thing about journaling and burn book, or even conscious manifesting, and when you're scripting out what you do want, and then the stuff in between when you're working to find solutions to problems, is that it's all part of the process and there's no wrong way to do it. This is just my method. I have a burn book. I would suggest having a notebook, and you can do it in 30-day cycles, like with the moon. It doesn't really matter. You can burn it, because that's why I call it a burn book, but I also call it a burn book, kind of like an homage to Mean Girls, because it's kind of like everything you ever wanted to say to someone else, or to even yourself. I wouldn't suggest being mean, but this segment of time when you're processing emotions is that you can be mean to yourself, but don't forget to forgive yourself at the end. Like, be wherever you are is where you are, and you're always learning and growing, and you're learning, and give yourself props for being better than you were yesterday. And even if you were worse today, you're on the journey, and that's fine. And then tomorrow is another new day. So don't beat up yourself too much, but if you have to, do it in the burn book. But that's where it goes, and that's where it's released. Do not hold on to it. The whole point of the burn book is to release. So it's similar to what I would do with brain dumping. Say if I have a client who is just overwhelmed with a lot of tasks, I say literally write out everything that you think that you need to do. And it could be a page, or it could be 10 pages, it doesn't really matter. And just getting it out on the page is a sense of, wow, I'm not carrying it around in here, I'm not carrying it around in my body. There's a sense of relief. Now, it doesn't mean with the burn book stuff is that you kind of can let that stuff go if it's something that you know you're resolving completely. You're letting it go and letting it God or whatever. With my mom's stuff, it comes back up sometimes. Now, it doesn't come back up directly from her, because we're good. It's been 15 years. And also I've done enough journaling and burn booking about the connections between her and our relationship, and what relationships I have with my friends and the people that I call boyfriend or boyfriends, and then that sort of stuff, like, or anybody that I would find potential in that. Like, I've kind of made the corollaries, not kind of, I have. So that stuff is like old hat for me. But for somebody new to the journey, is that this is your place to explore those relationships and be angry at this person and forgive and let go. And in this burn book, you're writing all those things down. You can be angry as you want. And also, don't forget to turn that knob a little bit towards, I'm thankful for the experience. I'm grateful that you taught me this. So all these are practices about self-awareness, because this is the most important relationship you have in your life, is yourself. Now, it's not grandiose to say if you don't know yourself, you can't be authentic with somebody else. It's just impossible. So you have to get as close to the core as possible. And if you're creating that core, that's fine too. There's no wrongness, and you can be anywhere in the journey. You're not supposed to be perfect. That's not the exercise. The exercise is to move the energy, move the stagnation, move the feelings that are uncomfortable that you don't want to actually think about anymore, and put them on paper and just move them and release them. And if you have to do it about the same shit again and again, then do it. There's plenty of notebooks in the world to let go. And eventually, once you actually make those connections in your mind of like, oh, well, this is why she may have done this. This is why I may have done this. This is why he may have done this. Then it's so much easier to let go of any anger and resentment and take your power back. And that's all I ever want for you, is to be empowered, to love yourself, to have conversations with yourself. And you can look like an insane person. I don't really care. Because you're doing it in a notebook form. It's really not insane if you put it in paper. And then you burn it, or you let it go, or you throw it in the garbage, or you could keep it. I like to move the energy away and let it go. And sometimes I forget. Like it has been sometimes where I would hold on to it for like a few years, and I'm like, I'm not that person anymore. So sometimes it's nice to reflect, and sometimes it's just nice to burn it and be like, nope, I've closed that chapter. I've learned those lessons. I'm ready for whatever growth and next step and next lessons that I have. So I hope day 18 is informative for you. You can use whatever type of notebook you would like. I would keep this separate from your scripting notebook, because they are definitely different energies. One's letting go, and one is knowing and building and creation. So that's why I would keep them separate. But you can do them however you want, because there's no real wrong way. But that's just my way. I hope you have a great 18th day, wherever we are in the universe. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.